So I would like to welcome everyone to this session. The session title is Supporting the Humanitarian Effort During Disasters, Opportunities for LIS Students as Digital Volunteers. The presenters are Dr. Chris Hagar, Joyce Monsees, and April Anderson. And we all agree that the recording has started, yes? Okay.
Yes. Very good.
I would like to take an opportunity to thank our sponsors. You can see a list of them here. San Jose State University School of Information, Center for International Scholarship in School Libraries, Follett, Library Journal, Wilson Consulting, Technology and Education, Counting Opinions, The Learning Revolution, Blackboard Collaborate, and the Washington Library Media Association. You've probably all seen this map if you've attended other sessions. I would like to take a moment, if we could please indicate on the map where we are located. You'll see a little toolbar to the left of the map, and you will click the, oh, there you go. It's the star icon on the the second from the top. Okay, so it looks like we have some people on the East Coast, the West Coast, and Washington, or Oregon maybe. And so, thank you for participating. Oops. I don't know what I just...
Okay, shall I start, Laura?
Yes, sorry, it collapsed. And now I would like to take the opportunity to hand over the mic to you, Dr. Hagar, to begin the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Hello, everybody. Thank you for attending. My name is Chris Hagar. I'm an assistant professor at the iSchool at San Jose State University in California. Today we're going to talk about supporting the humanitarian effort during disasters, opportunities for LIS students as digital volunteers. There are three of us presenting the paper today, two current students from the Masters in Library and Information Science program, Joyce Monsees and April Anderson. So what we're going to talk today, I'm going to talk briefly about Crisis Disaster Health Informatics course that I teach at San Jose. Joyce is going to talk about her work with the Standby Task Force. The Standby Task Force, to quote, organizes digital volunteers into a flexible, trained and prepared network ready to deploy in crisis. If you remember earlier this year, the Malaysian Flight 370 suddenly disappeared, and Joyce was one of the volunteers. She was part of the digital search and rescue effort that followed. And Joyce will be talking more about her work. April will talk about her work with the American Red Cross as a SIT cell analyst in the San Diego Imperial County chapter in California. So first of all, before I hand over to Joyce and April, I want to talk briefly about the Crisis Disaster Informatics course that I teach, and Joyce and April are former students of the course. Crisis Informatics is a term that I coined in 2006. What we include when we talk about a crisis or a disaster in the class is a natural disaster, for example, an earthquake, a hurricane, a typhoon, severe flooding, a tornado, a pandemic, for example, the Ebola outbreak at the moment, and human-made disasters like terrorist attacks. The course explores the interconnectedness of information, people, and technologies in a crisis. And we look at how information is created, how it's accessed, how it's organized, how it's coordinated and disseminated during a crisis. Topics that we cover include information seeking, information behavior, information systems, the impact of social media on disasters, issues of trust, and human-centered ways of managing information, and more. And we'll also explore the multiple roles that librarians and information professionals can play in disaster preparedness and response. So research in this area, in crisis informatics, has highlighted the ways in which emergent groups of digital volunteers have mobilized during disaster events to support information management efforts. And I'd just like to mention two of the key players in this area. So my colleagues at the University of Colorado at Boulder, Lisa Palin, and Kate Starbird, who works at the University of Washington. So what is a digital volunteer? Historically, volunteers needed to be in a physical space. So you needed to be on the ground at the point of the disaster to help. But now all that has changed. There are different terms that are used to this type of group. We refer to digital volunteers, we refer to digital teams, volunteer technical communities. So since the volunteers do not travel to the site, but they collect and use information through online resources. So technology advances in internet access, for example, mobile communications and global interaction, are giving people the tools to mobilize digital volunteers to support crisis response and humanitarian efforts. The slide shows the traditional volunteers on the left-hand side. They're all together in one place. Whereas volunteers are now situated all over the globe. They could be thousands of miles away from the location of the disaster. They gather information, they aggregate information, and they process it. And we use the term crowdsourcing to solve real-world crisis problems. They provide data, which we refer to as collective intelligence, that is useful on the ground to local responders. And this could be identifying the location of shelters, it could be locating where you might find medical help, where food and water is available, where there are transportation routes, if the roads are closed and impassable, for example. So there are many volunteer crisis response humanitarian aid organizations that have been set up. And a few examples of those on the slide: Ushahidi, Crisis Commons, Humanitarian Road, and the Standby Task Force. And that leads me now to introduce our next speaker, Joyce Monsees, who's going to talk about her work with the Standby Task Force. So over to you, Joyce.
Hi, thank you very much. Let me advance my slide so you can see. So my name is Joyce Monsees. I am a library and information science graduate student at San Jose State. I'm actually in the last few weeks of my final master's project, so I should have everything completed for graduation by the end of this month. But it has been a truly amazing time to be a library and information science student. I have to say that this time in history has allowed us to be more skilled in order to be able to reach out to the world than any time before, because of all of these online and technical capabilities that we have. So not only am I a student, but I am also an executive director for the Standby Task Force, as well as serving as a director I am also their volunteer engagement coordinator. So I'm the person who accepts application and the one who talks with students, new applicants when they come in and gets them trained. So let me tell you a little bit about the Standby Task Force. It's a large organization that started as a group of college students helping with the Haiti earthquake, but today we are an actual incorporated organization. So the Standby Task Force is a volunteer organization. We create information reports when a disaster occurs. So our reports are given to relief agencies, and they use this information to assist the victims of disasters like hurricanes, earthquakes, tornadoes, those types. But we call these groups that are on the ground forces or the boots on the ground, just like they do in the military, and then we assist them. So they take our maps and they make decisions that are based upon that information. So again, as Chris said, we don't travel to the disaster site, but we work from our home or our local computer, and we search for credible information that is imported onto a map. So in essence, we are the information link between victims and the rescue and response agencies. That photo to the right was taken during the Antwerp simulation. So the people in Belgium put together a simulation of a train crash, and we were able to upgrade their emergency preparedness system by using social media and showing them how to create a map. So I joined this organization when I started my master's program at San Jose State. I originally thought that I wanted to be a map librarian, but when I found the Standby Task Force, I realized all of these information retrieval skills would be perfect for this. So I designed my course load for that, and I took Dr. Hagar's crisis informatics class the first semester that I could, and that led me to choose my other courses. Her course showed me the organizational side of a crisis and the information systems that they use. So you can look at this map here on this slide. This is what we do. We must be activated by a disaster response agency from organizations like the UN or FEMA or Doctors Without Borders, who has activated us right now at this moment. So the map that you see on this slide was created for the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. We were activated for Typhoon Haiyan. It's also /Yolanda because the people in the Philippines have their own name for each of their typhoons. So we were activated in November of 2013. This typhoon was horrible. According to USAID, it killed over 6,000 people. It destroyed over 1 million homes. So the Standby Task Force members worked together to collect the information that you see on the map. We filtered out all this usable data, located the incidents, and we created this real-time map that the UN used to render aid to the local communities. The UN would pop up each of these blue boxes, and it would show them all the information exactly how we had entered it. So this one shows how we deliver the information. So we deliver whatever information the activating agency asks for, as long as it's within our code of conduct and within our skill parameters. So each deployment that we do is very unique. It depends on what the disaster is, and it depends on what they need. So we constantly are monitoring the world through alert apps and news sources, Twitter, so that we're ready. I have to say that this morning we activated one of our programs because there is a typhoon headed toward India. We are still deployed for the Ebola outbreak, but we have instigated all of our programs so that we're ready in case we need to deploy for this typhoon. So you can see this first responder on the left. This is actually a gentleman with the U.S. Navy. So first responders and field workers, they arrive in an affected country about 12 to 24 hours after a disaster. They need to know where to go and what to bring. They need this real-time information, reports as quickly as they can so that they can deliver the right products and the right information. So our goal is to collect and organize and map and deliver that information within that 12 to 24-hour time frame. Our maps are web-based, but they can be downloaded to laptops, tablets, mobile devices. That way responders can examine the data and decide their priorities, take the maps with them, and deliver the correct aid and the supplies. These maps and situation reports usually provide rescue and relief agencies with information about infrastructure damage, injuries, displaced persons, supply needs, any other details that are needed to help the victims. So basically, again, they just need to know how to help, where to go, what to bring. A lot of times it helps them to know if that road is closed, they need to go a different direction, and we can find that out when the locals will inform us through social media. So in a crisis, our maps and our situation reports ultimately help the victims, but our organization directs our assistance to the rescue and relief agencies. So we will not contact the victims directly. We will work with the agencies, and they will work with the victims. You can see the ones that we've worked with already. We can see United Nations. We also have worked with Amnesty International, Severe India, USAID, UNOSAT, Satellite Agency, Oxfam, World Health Organization, also NetHope, Doctors Without Borders, and right now also the British Red Cross. So we have conducted many deployments, but we constantly prepare. Anytime an earthquake, tornado, hurricane reaches that red alert on the Global Disaster Alert and Coordination System. The picture on the left, by the way, is that typhoon that came through and just destroyed the Philippines. So this is who we are. Crisis mapping basically is just the process of creating real-time maps that help during a crisis. So the Standby Task Force, because we've been doing this now since the inception of crisis mapping, we are one of the leaders in this community. We have over 1,200 volunteers, and our members are from about 80 different countries. With that diverse volunteers, we have a vast range of skills, experience, cultural knowledge. Our members help people that have they will never meet these people. I'm really proud to work with them. Right now, they've been working 24/7 for the past 3 days for victims of Ebola in countries that they may never travel to and for people that they will never meet. So each disaster is unique. Our members have to learn new skills for each specific need. And I've seen them welcome challenges that are quite difficult, but they know that this is for people who are desperate for rescue and relief aid, so they give their time and their effort. So our members are actually similar to all of you. So for all of your information students, library professionals, we have the same kind of skills. Our members are primarily educated, computer competent, helpful to the public, open to new skills, challenges, practices. This probably sounds familiar to the job that you have. So we primarily need volunteers with good online search skills, basic spreadsheet needs, social media experience, geographical information skills that we can teach if you don't know. This includes geolocation. You see that on the slide. This is just the ability to find the grid coordinates of a location. And then mapping and technology skills so that we can verify the data and upload it to the map. So I'm sure that most of you recognize these skills. So we're happy to train if there's others that you don't know, because we're a very instructional and teachable group. So if you would ever like to join us and you see your skill there, we're happy to have you. So now that you know what we do, you can see how my information science skills are used every day for crisis mapping. I work alongside our members collecting credible data and creating the reports and the maps. So you see this class list on the left. You can see how the numerous skills that I've learned through my degree help me to be a volunteer. Because I do this, I import stuff to the spreadsheets, I work on the maps alongside all of us. So I am a volunteer and I'm also a director. So all of these classes that I have prepared me for that. So the list on the right includes classes that I took that provide skills that I need for the corporate level, for strategic planning, for training, communicating with volunteers, getting funding, working within our corporate network. And you see the crisis informatics class there, the third one down. This is where I studied how information travels during a crisis, and it's also how I became certified as a disaster information specialist with the National Library of Medicine, who, since that class, I've been able to contact and get information about the Ebola crisis. It created a very good network for me. So for people who ask me, which I have to say I get asked quite often, why would you be a library and information science student if you wanted to be in crisis mapping? And I say, the skills I learned in these classes have helped me every single day in this job. So I just want to show you real briefly what we're doing at this moment. We recently assisted NetHope, which is another information communication technology organization, and we helped them to collect and map the current data for the Ebola outbreak for West Africa. We helped them in phase 1, and at the moment we're in phase 2. So we were asked to collect baseline data on the 4 most affected countries, which are Guinea, Liberia, Nigeria, and Sierra Leone. Right now we are in the second phase, and we're collecting this data for Doctors Without Borders for their medical efforts, and we're finding where all of the different medical centers and treatment centers are, those who are already established as hospitals and those that were ad hoc and created just for this outbreak. So if you are a volunteer helping with us, you might collect baseline data, which includes like where are the cell towers for communication, where are the radio transmission, where are water resources, where are the schools located. You might be part of a team that creates these exhaustive lists of sources from Twitter and non-governmental relief organization websites, lists of journalists from their blogs, lists of scientists, medical teams. We also have teams that do the geographical information system skills to reformat any data so that they can be uploaded onto the maps. And again, we teach some of those GIS skills. So if that's new to you and you want to learn that, you can use your information retrieval skills alongside it, and we can get you started with that. So these are mainly the teams that we deploy each time. Once again, look at what they are. They're information retrieval skills. The Media Monitoring Information Management team collects the data from different reliable sources. The Geospatial Analyst team finds these and maps their exact locations. And our verification team checks to make sure that all of the information is credible before we deliver it. So we also have a monitoring and evaluation team. So this group continually monitors our work to make sure that we are meeting that activating agency's criteria, and then they also create after-action reports to make sure that we were effective during this deployment. We want to make sure that our work is truly helping victims, so we look at quantitative, qualitative results. We look for ways to improve and to research better technology and communication tools for the next deployment. We've worked for over 30 deployments, and we try to improve our methods with each one so we can be better. And I wanted to show you how the general public can help during crisis and how they can be part of a crisis mapping team. So this is what the general public can do. We have a software program that can allow people to help categorize tweets, like the picture on the left, or photographs of a disaster, like the image on the right. So we use our classification skills to determine what categories that people see and what they can choose on the screens. So if our skills are good, the public can easily help during a disaster from their home, logging onto their computer. But it takes our organizational classification skills so that we can get this all set up for them. It takes a librarian, to be totally honest. It takes a librarian to get this going, and then the public can help. So this is my contact information. If you would like to learn more about the field of crisis mapping and global disaster information, you are welcome to contact me. That's my email for the Standby Task Force. That's also my Skype ID and my Twitter account. So you're welcome to follow me or contact me if you would like more information. You're also welcome to join our group. You can see the link to our blog site. That's also the link to where you can join and apply. We would just like to know how you can help and what country you're from and what time zone. We won't ask you a lot of the details and say we reject you. We would just really love the help. That's also our Twitter account for Standby Task Force. And the last one is the Digital Humanitarian Network. This is the network that we belong to, that the UN created, different groups with different skills so that we can deploy exactly how a crisis is and what group needs us. So I just want to leave you with one thought. The field of crisis mapping and disaster response is all about information. We need accurate and accessible information communicated in the best formats in the most appropriate ways for these groups. Information is the key to saving lives, and library science professionals are information experts, so your skills are valuable in this one and in many other fields. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joyce. I'm now going to hand it over to April Anderson, who's also a student at the iSchool, a Master's Library and Information Science student. And April is a SIT-Cell analyst at the American Red Cross, the San Diego Imperial Counties chapter. So over to you, April.
Thank you, Chris. Hello, everyone. My name is April Anderson. I'm a graduate student at SJSU School of Information, working toward earning my MLIS with an emphasis on emerging technologies. I'm also an intern at the American Red Cross in San Diego County. I've been working with the Red Cross for just about a year now and was introduced to the world of disasters through Dr. Hagar's Crisis Informatics course during the fall of 2013. In the following slides, I would like to discuss what I do in my position at the Red Cross, as well as some of the key takeaways from the Crisis Disaster Health Informatics course. Since September of 2013, I've been working on the Disaster Operations Technology Group as a SIT-Cell analyst. During a disaster, the SIT-Cell analysts work in the Situation Room of the Chapter Disaster Operations Center to search for, organize, analyze, and disseminate information in order to build situational awareness and support the disaster response. Disasters are dynamic, and keeping up with the correct information is crucial during a response. Our team needs to be aware of what is going on at all times. For example, if there's a fire, we need to stay up to date with fire perimeters, acres burned, the weather, such as wind direction, humidity levels, and temperature, as well as structures that are damaged or threatened by the fire, and the number of shelters that are open. This information is used to make important decisions and help to set objectives. Also, each day there are reports that need to be created, and what I mostly work on are the incident action plans and situation reports, as well as splash reports or executive summaries. The incident action plan sets the objectives for the next day, and the situation report is a summary of what took place during the day in each of the groups, such as sheltering, feeding, bulk distribution, logistics, casework, etc. The SIT-Cell analysts and the GIS team members also work together to create maps during disasters using GIS mapping software, such as Esri. We create these maps to show where the disaster is within a county or region, such as fires, earthquakes, or landslides, where Red Cross shelters and other shelters are located, where temporary evacuation points are, as well as road closures and power outages. You'll see a couple of examples of maps that were created on the next slide. The map on the left was created during the fires in San Diego County in May of 2014. There were about 8 fires burning in different areas of the county at the same time, so creating these maps really helped to develop a better understanding of what was happening at the time. These maps provide a good visualization of the situation and are really effective in helping to make decisions when moving ahead during an operation. The second map on the right was created during the San Bernardino landslides in August 2014, so just a few months ago. There were quite a few events happening in the Pacific region at that time, So my team and I ended up monitoring the fires in Oregon, California, and Washington State, as well as the mudslides in San Bernardino County and the American Samoa flooding and landslides. So there was a lot going on, a lot of information to collect. GIS courses are offered at SJSU through the School of Information if students are interested in learning more about this. I took the online training offered through Esri and FEMA in order to gain a better understanding of how to use the Geographic Information System software at the Red Cross. As mentioned previously, sit-cell analysts are continually searching for, compiling, organizing, and analyzing information. The kind of information will change from disaster to disaster since every scenario is different. Finding good information that we can turn into actionable intelligence is crucial during a disaster or crisis. In order to help others, I'm currently putting together a website of sources that can be used by sit-cell analysts both when we are operational and when we have downtime. This repository of information started as a final project in an HTML CSS course that I took at the start of the year, and I decided to keep developing it in order to help analysts find good sources of disaster-related information. I've listed here some essential elements of information that we look for during a disaster are boundaries of the disaster, weather conditions, status of communications, road closures, status of shelters, access point to the disaster area, and so on. Some of the important takeaways from Dr. Hagar's Crisis Informatics course, and that proves to be true oftentimes during a disaster, is the sheer amount of information that is out there. We need to be aware that some of the information we find can be contradictory or inaccurate. There are many different organizations and people involved when there is a disaster, and coordinating and integrating all that information can be quite difficult. When I'm searching for information, I will always compare sources against each other to determine accuracy. The information will also change various stages of the disaster or crisis, so this is always something that needs to be taken into consideration when working on an operation. When I worked on the American Samoa flooding and landslide disaster, I had the opposite experience. There was actually a lack of information, and it was very difficult when I needed in order to report back to my manager. That is where our skills as information professionals comes in handy, to dig for and find that information when it seems to be hidden or non-existent. One of the courses that really helped strengthen my ability for locating information was an online searching course that I took over this past summer. I learned how to form better search strategies, how to locate information on the invisible web or deep web, as well as reintroduction to general web directories and specialized directories. Oftentimes, Google is the go-to place, but we have to remember that not all information will find its way to us using only this method. There are many sources of information available on the internet, but finding the trustworthy sources are key. At the Red Cross, we tend to pull information from trusted sources such as CAL FIRE, which provides current fire information for the state of California. Some of the information that you might come across on their site is the general location of the fire, acres burned, percentage contained, and evacuations. And this website is open for the public as well, so if they're looking for information about evacuations, this would be a good source. A source I found recently was InfoWeb, which is an interagency information management system provided by the United States Forest Service, is also another good source. The information that I pulled from InfoWeb is very similar to CAL FIRE. Each site varies in the amount of detail provided, and it's a good practice to compare the sites to one another to see if information matches up before reporting. And then for weather, I usually start out with NOAA or Weather Underground, depending on what I'm looking for. Sometimes, or something I just learned recently is that the National Weather Service has a chat live application where you are able to ask questions about forecasts and weather conditions, among other things. It isn't accessible to everyone, and you need to be affiliated with an organization such as the Red Cross in order to gain access, but it's a good source, especially when working in the disaster management field. In addition to these sources, I follow multiple Twitter feeds as well as Facebook pages on each city that is affected by the disaster. I also follow CAL FIRE, San Diego County, and the San Diego Sheriff for important updates. Updates about evacuations and road closures often show up instantly and are very important for our disaster operation. Social media can be used as a very effective way to reach a large amount of people during a disaster, and I found that following the feeds to gather information has been really helpful. For information professionals who are interested in this field, there are positions such as the cell analyst at the Red Cross, where we can utilize our skills. There are other positions as well, such as public information officer, which is responsible for the flow of information between responders and the media, and the Red Cross provides training for this as well. Other roles that libraries and librarians can fill are offering the library as a safe haven or evacuation center. So this is different than digital volunteering, but the library can be a place to go to during a crisis for people to get together and make sense of what happened and just figure out what the next steps are. Since the library is viewed as an information hub, community members could come for assistance in filling out FEMA forms, etc., as well as provide internet if other sources are down. Libraries could also partner with disaster agencies in order to meet the needs of the community. For example, the Red Cross has an initiative called Prepare San Diego. They are working toward reaching out to 1 million people in San Diego County by 2017 to help them develop an understanding of disasters and put together an emergency kit. When I first started at the Red Cross, I proposed the idea of partnering with the San Diego Public Library System in order to provide outreach through safety fairs in the different communities in San Diego, setting up displays at the library to get information out and to get people interested in disaster preparedness. So that's just an example. There are other libraries around the nation that are involved with disaster agencies as well. Taking the crisis informatics course was just the starting point in my journey. My role at the Red Cross has been continually evolving over the past year. The more I learn and continue to build my skills, both as a student and an intern, the more my passion grows for working in the disaster field. Thank you.
Thank you, April. April and Joyce have given many examples of how LIS students can be involved in humanitarian aid efforts during disasters. And they've given lots of examples of how library and information science students can use their skills, such as online searching and reference information retrieval, verification of data, visualizing information, and so on and so forth. So just to conclude, I'd like to say the course that I teach as Crisis Informatics is available as an open course at the iSchool at San Jose. Open courses provide continuing education and professional development opportunities. The courses are online. Most of the course content is delivered asynchronously, and it's open to everyone with a bachelor's degree or higher. The URL for more information on open courses is there on the slide. So if anyone has any questions, we'd be happy to take them now, or if you'd like to contact us via email, our email addresses are on the final slide. So anyway, thanks everyone for attending. As I say, if you've got any questions or like to follow up with any of the speakers, then please do get in touch. We'd be happy to hear from you.
Okay, I'll wait a moment and then I will stop the recording.
Okay, thanks, Laura.